Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down and dissect the latest and greatest in film. I'm joined by the Lynch lover, the man with over a couple of films on his watch list, Jackson Marshall on film. How you doing?
Fantastic, Dan. Never been better now that I'm finally emancipated from yourself and out on my own.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I'm just my own person now. I'm a free man. I don't need no one else ruling my life, telling me what to do, what to wear, where to be.
Oh,
so
God.
Shove it.
Look, we got to episode 15. You didn't think we'd make it to 5.
I didn't think we'd make it to 1.
Oh, no. Well, we're at 15. I reckon we're going to be going till we drop. But that's just me.
Probably straight after this episode, let's be real.
What have we got today, Jackson? What are we exploring today? Tell our listeners of this fantastic, there's the word again, episode we've got in store for them today.
Listeners, we have a very special schedule ahead for yourselves. So today we are throwing back to several months ago, since DC Comics have been in the headlines this week for reasons we won't quite disclose, as we hear enough about comics as is. We're going to be covering Birds of Prey and the fantabulous, I should say, emancipation of one Harley Quinn. We both went back and rewatched it. And as a thank you to all of our amazing listeners and followers, as well as subscribers and those who have left 5-star reviews, we're going to be hosting another one of our much lauded Q&A segments. We've got some great questions coming in. We can't wait to get stuck into it. But first, Dan, Birds of Prey. Take it away.
Jackson, you said something there. Well, before we get into this Birds of Prey review.
If we don't beat around the bush anymore,
you said something about
anymore.
DC. Some breaking news. What was that news about? I just want you... There was a hashtag. There was a movement. The DC fans put together a movement for the last 2 years.
What was it?
Everyone came and wanted this cut. They wanted the Snyder Cut.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they wanted people to just go see the films because no one's doing it.
Release the Snyder Cut, okay?
Were you one of them?
I was one of them. Now, who sent a tweet out? Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman. Cyborg, forgot the actor's name. Bear with me here.
That would be Ray Fisher.
Ray Fisher. Ben Affleck even sent the tweet out. I was shocked.
What about Khal Drogo? Didn't he put his name
Khal
in the hat?
Drogo, he sure did. Jason Momoa, my man. My brother. Jason fucking Momoa. Aquaman, come on. Who else sent it out? Henry Cavill sent out a tweet. Release the Snyder Cut. We had hope.
Isn't that the guy with the mustache from Mission Impossible 4?
Oh, shit.
There's the M word. Didn't take long.
They all asked for it. The fans had hope. We had hope. And what happened last week, Jackson? We got confirmation.
We got more than confirmation.
To HBO Max. 2021, the Snyder Cut, $30+ million. Jackson, I'm ready. The Justice League was a shit movie. Hopefully, they fix it.
Hot take. Dan, HBO Max, that's only available in the US. How could I access HBO Max if I want to watch the Snyder Cut?
Well, Jackson, I'm happy you asked. Our sponsor for today, ExpressVPN. But more on them later.
Well done. I'm very impressed.
The Zack Snyder Cut is coming, Jackson. I cannot wait. The movie was not great. I walked out of the cinema deflated, disappointed from Justice League. But now we get that final cut, that cut we've always wanted. It's going to make the movie so good. It's good. The screenplay was there, man. I'm telling you, it just wasn't uncovered. The villain was terrible, so hopefully they can do something about that. But will we see a bit more dark side? Will we see a better film? Who knows? But we got there. We got the Snyder Cut.
My opinion, you can't turn chicken shit into chicken salad. I haven't watched Justice League.
You haven't watched it?
But because Dan will be pushing and prodding me into doing it, and we will absolutely be releasing an episode next year on the Snyder Cut, you best believe I'm going to have that very unique perspective when I sit down and watch this 10-hour limited series epic that will be coming next year.
So we obviously are going to release... We're obviously going to watch the Snyder Cut, right?
Yes.
Will we watch the original cut the week before and review that? Or is it too much? We might do them both in the one episode, I think.
At Dan Allen Movies, available on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Twitter. I'm not going to watch Justice League before seeing the Snyder Cut. That's my hot take.
Look, I
want to give our fans something
unique.
Don't blame That's what we're all about here at the We Watch This Movie podcast. We want to entertain and educate, and I want to give them my unique perspective, okay?
Yeah, bullshit. But anyway, guys, Birds of Prey today.
Oh, is that what we're covering?
We're covering Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn, the fantabulous babble. So why don't we get straight into it?
Oh, straight into it. We haven't beat around the bush enough.
Oh, actually, I've got another 17 questions if you want to cover them.
Please.
Jackson, let's get into it. I've had enough.
You know what a harlequin is? A harlequin's role is to serve. It's nothing without a master. No one gives two shits who we are beyond that.
Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn is a twisted tale told by Harley herself, as only Harley can tell it. It was also renamed Harley Quinn Birds of Prey by Warner Brothers while at the cinemas due to a shocking opening weekend. More on that later. When Gotham's most nefariously narcissistic villain, Roman Sionis, and his zealous right hand, Zaz, put down a target on a young girl named Cass, the city is turned upside down looking for her. Harley, Huntress, Black Canary, and Renee Montoya's paths collide, and the unlikely foursome have no choice but to team up to take Roman down. Dan, what were your thoughts on whatever this movie was called when you saw it at the cinemas?
Yeah, so we watched it in the cinemas, what was it, February this year, before
Sounds
this
about
shit
right.
went down. And we watched it again, both of us, this week. I didn't go in with high hopes. With the DC track record of late, hasn't been great. Obviously,
the last couple were all right.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I wasn't a big fan of Shazam. I wasn't a big fan of Justice League.
What about Wonder Woman?
I liked Aquaman. I gave it a 7, and people said, you're insane. How can you give that film a 7?
Me included.
I watched it again. I still stand by that 7. I thought it was good. So, guys out there, let me know if I'm wrong on that, but I still think Aquaman's a 7. But this, not as good. It just didn't come together. I thought without Margot Robbie in this film as Harley Quinn, this could have been one of the worst films we ever saw. She carried the film on her back. Her back must be so sore. Her neck must be throbbing from the carried performance she did in this film.
Almost as sore as me carrying you through this podcast.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Oh, worse.
That's big.
She's done some heavy lifting here, and the ensemble cast didn't do anything for me. They weren't fleshed out. They weren't interesting. The narrative wasn't great. I mean, how many times do you want to do a joke about a cheese sandwich and it fall flat? All the jokes here fell flat, I thought. Pretty 90%, 95% of them fell flat. Our man, Ewan Mcgregor, he did an okay job. I wouldn't say he was bad. I wouldn't say he was good. He was somewhere lingering in the middle. It wasn't a representation of Black Mask that we'd seen before. From the games, he's completely different from the comics. So they sort of went down the gay route in this with Victor Saz. We'll go into that later. But look, why was it called Birds of Prey? I don't know. Because this should have been a standalone Harley Quinn film. Don't worry about the Birds of Prey. Focus on your bread and butter here. Harley Quinn, she was the best part of Suicide Squad. And why try and rope in these characters? They come together at the end, and it just does not pay off. But yeah, look, I wouldn't say disappointed, because as I said, the hopes weren't high. But yeah, somewhere in the middle. I think average sums this one up best.
Well, Dan, you mentioned a cheese sandwich. I don't know what movie you were watching, because Harley was definitely enjoying an egg sandwich. That's right. I got you. I beat you.
You got to correct me at least once. There you go. You've got it out early.
Yes. You know what, mate? I had very similar sentiments to you when I saw this in the theaters back in February as well. It wasn't a packed screening. It was clear the people there were probably fans of Margot Robbie, might have seen Suicide Squad once and enjoyed that. Thought, oh, this looks like a bit of fun. Let's go. Mm. There is some very cringe-worthy dialogue and narration, very slapdash, very messy. You know what? On a rewatch, though, it comes together, and it was a lot of fun. Despite its obvious flaws, I enjoyed the performances from pretty much everyone across the board. I thought the ensemble cast were great, definitely deserving of a better film. The visuals pop. The action is awesome. If you're going to do an action movie in 2020, just get Chad Stahelski involved. This guy is a master of action choreography at the moment, and in this was amazing. So I had a lot of fun with this. Again, the bar, just like you said, mate, was set pretty low, with the exception of Wonder Woman and Shazam, which I haven't seen. There haven't been very many good DCEU films. In fact, there's been none. This is pretty good, though. This is pretty good. I enjoyed myself a lot more watching this at home than I did in the theaters. This took a couple sittings, as I wanted to get some comprehensive notes that it's going to be lots of fun to tackle. Kathy Yen had some great direction here for a second feature. Christina Hodson's script wasn't great. Should have been sharper, should have been better. The through line for the narrative is very, very clumsy, particularly in the first half. Before we actually get some forward momentum, we have the Diamond MacGuffin introduced. It's just all over the shop, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead is probably deserving of a better superhero film. Margot Robbie, though, I loved her in this, so I really enjoyed it.
It was her movie, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Not only did she star in it, but she produced it as well. It was hers to die on, and from the box office reception, sounds like she did.
What was that box office reception?
Well, Dan, I'm so glad you asked. So this came in with a reported budget of somewhere to $81 to $100 million. Now, when we combine that with the marketing budget, which is separate from the production budget, a marketing budget for a film would typically be equal that of its production, but a comic book film probably goes even more. Let's say it was 150. Take 100 million plus 150 million. It needed about 250 or even 300 to break even. No, there's a lot of numbers here, listeners. I know you're movie people, not mathematicians, but bear with us. This only made 200 million at the global box office. Was this hampered by Corona? Probably not. In fact, right now, this is the fourth highest grossing film of 2020. If we got things like No Time to Die and the Fast and Furious flick, it definitely wouldn't be up there. It's a little sad it only brought in 200 million, but the audience global. Just wasn't there.
Global. This
200 global, mate. Just over 200 global.
That is shocking.
It is shocking. This had a huge marketing push, and this is by far the biggest movie for Lucky Chap Entertainment, which was set up by Margot Robbie herself. That's her production company. They first funded I, Tonya, which we mentioned in the Bad Education episode. So that was nominated for 3 Oscars, picked up 1, and 200 million and a $100 million budget was a huge gamble that didn't pay off.
I've seen
I felt this probably should have, though.
I've seen their office, the Lucky Chap office there in LA.
Oh, wow.
Got a nice little setup there. Margot, as you said, at the helm there, but I can't believe 200 million. That is shocking for a comic book film in 2020. Yeah, we
even worse, Dan, is that this had the lowest opening weekend for a DC film since, get this, Jonah Hex. What do you remember about Jonah Hex?
Nothing good. Oh my God,
Who is even in that? That was Thanos himself, Josh Brolin, and Michael Fassbender. We got both of them in an X-Men film and an Avengers film. Far better than Jonah Hex. This probably deserved to do a heck of a lot better. What do you think was the nail in the coffin for this film?
Birds of Prey. Look, one thing I'll say is the R rating. There was no need to go R-rated here. Once you've seen the film, it wasn't needed. Some of the scenes just felt tacked on. We knew that Black Mask Roman was a bad guy. We didn't need him to do some of the stuff he did in the film, I thought. There was a couple of confronting scenes there that I just didn't think were needed. So those scenes obviously contributed to that R rating, which has had some success in, I think it was Logan and Deadpool, all R-rated, that did good numbers. And this one tried to go down that route and just completely failed. Also, no one has fond memories of Suicide Squad, from my memory.
Absolutely not. Dan, I'm glad you mentioned it, so I didn't have to. But that's what's left bad taste in people's mouths, mine included. I wasn't looking forward to watching this. I'd heard some good reviews when it dropped. I figured, hey, what the hell? And you know what? For a movie with emancipation in its title, and it's meant to be about setting free, it's essentially a big breakup movie and how Margot Robbie deals with that breakup. For a movie about that, it sure is stuck in this awful Suicide Squad style, from the title cards to the needle drops to the haphazard editing. Just make it fucking stop. Who thought this was a good idea? It didn't work the first time around for David Ayer. In fact, it worked so poorly, they had to destroy the film and put it back to life about 4 or 5 times over, like it's Superman in Justice League. But here, come on.
You know an awful lot about Justice League, having not seen it.
Look, when you've recorded about 15 podcasts about something you haven't seen, you get a fair idea of how you can waffle your way through it. Isn't that right, Dan?
Look, no comment. So I think we can both agree that the action set pieces and scenes in this movie were quite good, weren't they? I think Chad Stahelski, got that name right, didn't I?
He nailed it.
From John Wick, stuntman, choreography there, did a great job here. He brings it in. Some of the scenes here, really, really well done. I don't know how many of the action scenes he did, because there was one scene I wasn't a big fan of. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But
no, let's go into it now.
Well, it was the final action set piece when the whole team come together, and I thought at that point it just lost me. The action was all over the place. It just didn't do it for me. From the police station, which was so good, so
the
fun,
Terminator,
to all the way at this end when it was just all over the place. There's 100 different characters running around. It just, some of the spots, I guess you can call them, just didn't work. So, yeah, maybe it was just me. What did you think?
I'm of the opposite, mate. Chad Stahelski's work on this was awesome. In fact, he was the head of the second unit photography, so he's basically the AD, the assistant director for this picture. For our listeners who might not be aware, second unit photography typically happens on your big action blockbusters, and while your director, here Kathy Yen, has the overall vision and it's her picture, your assistant director typically films your action sequences. And the reason that they do that and not your main director is that the action scenes in these films are often very meticulously planned, choreographed. They will take a long time, and you'll film them with a lot of stunt doubles and stunt men. So while you're doing some of the really juicy stuff, and you've got your actors doing what they do best, acting, your second unit for director, they will take care of the action and explosions and things like that. And to the best of my knowledge, Chad Stahelski did all of them, including that climactic fight sequence, which probably is my favorite part of the film. So really? Sorry, Dan, but you might be wrong there. And I love you brought up that police station invasion, because just like Lee Winnell stealing from John Carpenter, if you're going to steal from someone, you might as well take from the best. And Kathy Yen rips off the Terminator, James Cameron himself, with that.
But how good is it?
Awesome. It's a similar shot when Arnold walks in the 1984 picture, and he's got the sunnies and the jacket on. And here Harley Quinn comes in with the hat and the sunnies, and
it's
takes
perfect.
them off. So
it's perfect.
Oh, it works so hilarious.
Well. That's a standout for me, and more of that would have been good. I thought maybe at the end, I think it was all the different characters and we all coming together that really threw it off for me. And the goons were just so generic, and by that point, I'd turned off a little bit, so that might have played a part. And look, the action scene there, I thought it was, compared to those first few, that one was forgettable, I thought.
Okay, I quite thought the opposite, but each to their own, I suppose.
So what did you think of the stylistic choice? I know you said you didn't like the Suicide Squad sort of themes, but I thought it was very colourful. The whole thing was very colourful, and with Gotham City, we usually see it in a very dark, dingy way. I thought they were showing this more through the eyes of Harley Quinn. I thought there was a lot more colours involved here that I didn't mind on the screen. But yeah, what was your take on all that?
I love the color palette here. So bright, so visually rich. This is an awesome movie to look at. You do not need to read into any of this. In fact, the subtext, there's a little bit going on, but not a whole heck of a lot because everything's in the foreground. It's on the screen. It looks awesome. Sounds awesome? Nah, not really. Again, I hate a lot of the needle drops. In fact, any callback to Suicide Squad just sent me up the freaking wall. But at least here, there was a lot happening at daytime. It was very bright. And rather than having it shot through the male gaze, it was very much a female movie about empowerment and girl power. Pretty much every male character, except for Doc, was a sleazy, slimy scumbag, all sexual perverts obsessed with trying to feel someone up and take advantage of women, and they pretty much all got their comeuppance. So that was great.
Maybe that affected the box office as well. It was a very women-driven movie. And, with the whole SJW sort of, all that sort of stuff going on at the moment, I know that probably affected things. We won't go into it too much here, but, it is a female director, female-led cast, and all that. So one thing I will say, though, is that I think the whole film is pretty much Harley Quinn trying to prove that she can do it on her own without the Joker. I think that's pretty obvious. But did you like those integrations of the Joker? Did you think it was needed? All those Suicide Squad callbacks? I mean, I didn't think much of it. I thought, no one liked Jared Leto's the Joker. Let's just put it out there. 99% of people did not like it.
I didn't mind it.
You didn't mind it? I didn't mind it either, personally. He definitely wasn't the best or even close. But I didn't think he was terrible like most people did. It was a different take. He was trying to do something different. You can't blame him. And he is a good actor. He is a good actor.
The screenplay and the editing job on that picture was far more offensive than any other performances. Look, here we are talking about Birds of Prey, and we're still bringing up Suicide Squad. That's how dark a shadow that movie looms over this.
And it lingers,
sure, it grossed a
doesn't it?
lot, but it just turned off so many people. If it hadn't have turned off so many, we probably would have seen a much bigger box office return.
I feel like they were trying to pull off Suicide Squad with this movie. It's the same sort of premise, a team of misfits coming together to, usually bad guys coming together, because Harley Quinn's not a heroine in the comics. She's bad. She's really bad. Black Mask is really bad, as we know. Cassandra Cain, Black Canary. A lot of these characters aren't usually good guys, so they're trying to. I felt like they were just trying to redo Suicide Squad and do it better, but they just didn't really add anything. They didn't really hit anything besides the action scenes. They didn't really hit anything, the nail on the head.
In a perfect world, this would have come out instead of Suicide Squad, and this would have been more positively received, at least from audiences. Considering we've spoken so much about Suicide Squad, how about we get into the meat and bones of this picture? Want to get stuck into spoilers?
Spoiler alert. What about Ewan McGregor?
Fucking love him.
Black Mask.
Sam Rockwell was the archetype for this role and turned it down. Not sure why, because he would have.
I could really tell though. I as soon as I heard that, I just knew
sense.
It made sense, didn't it?
Do you reckon that? Do you reckon this is Renton from Trainspotting?
I was gonna say
about
that
20 years later. This is
I
a real
was gonna
T2?
say that, mate. I was gonna say that. You stole my point. I'm on a Ewan McGregor train right now. What's next? Bit of Star Wars.
Bit of episode 2, mate.
Yeah, maybe. No,
Maybe not.
I didn't know whether I really liked him or really hated him when I first watched it. I was a bit on the fence because he was so crazy. He was not Black Mask from the comics. This guy is completely different in the comics that I've watched and the animated films I've seen. So I was a bit taken back.
What's he like in the comics?
He's more dark. He doesn't have this flamboyant vibe about him that he does in this film. He's more straight to the point, and in this film you see him without the mask 90% of the time. in the comic books, in the shows that I've seen, he's always got that mask on. It's very menacing, very confronting. In this, I didn't find him as menacing. I found him a bit more... There was more comedy involved. Did you feel that? They were trying to go for a bit of comedy with this villain, and he would occasionally do these really dark things like peel people's faces and exploit women and all these sort of things that they tried to add in that just didn't add much value for me. But yeah, in the end, in a second viewing, I liked him a lot more.
I loved him the first time around and loved him even more the second. Sure, there's some egregious and excessive violence, especially the face peeling from him and Zaz. That was like, whoa, straight out of left field. I guess that's how you earn your R rating, right? But his take on an absolute narcissist who hates his family, having been turned away from them. In fact, he hates everyone, including himself. It was a heck of a lot of fun. Every scene Ewan McGregor's in, he's just swallowing the scenery whole, almost like a
He was
level,
taking over a little
just
bit.
Taking it and just eating it, choking the life out of everyone around him. But it definitely works. It felt fresh. It's definitely not fresh, especially in a superhero film, but I'm kind of sick of seeing these dark, twisted characters who are meant to be so super serious. So why not just turn it up to 11 and go for broke? This is that scene from Charlie's Angels when Sam Rockwell dances. Just the whole film. I loved it. What did you think? What did you think of his final shot?
Oh, that I didn't like. I really didn't. No.
You didn't like the Welcome to Watch Mojo's top 10 villain deaths by explosion?
I just it summed up the movie a little bit, but
fair
with Ewan, maybe I should say him and Harley both carried the film because one thing I will say, he was in it quite a fair bit, and when he stole the show, like you said, and a lot of villains in these sort of movies don't get enough runtime. Him and Zaz got quite a bit, and that's good to see. And we saw him play against Harley Quinn. A lot of the time you don't get those sort of scenes in these movies, so that was good. Him and Victor Saz, are they gay together? Did you get that vibe?
I didn't quite pick on that vibe as much as you did.
No?
I thought they made for a really fun duo. In fact, Chris Messina as Zaz kind of takes this role and makes something out of nothing. He's such an intimidating but ultimately useless presence. I think that's part of the joke, that he looks so frightening but never really does anything. And you know what? This kind of exploits a massive plot hole. So why does Roman Sionis need a driver? Why does it have to be Dinah Lance, Black Canary, when Zaz could just drive him around?
That's not the only plot hole, mate. We could go into a few. The
narrative
threads aren't the best part.
Before we go into the Bertinelli MacGuffin as well,
I hate MacGuffins. Please, man. Why do we need MacGuffins in these films? Why?
Well, if it's not a mother box, it's going to be a diamond, okay?
Man, I just come up with something different in these superhero films.
Back to it though.
Always a MacGuffin.
Chris Messina as Zaz was a heck of a lot of fun, and he did really well. In fact, his cackle there at the end on the all-time comic book cackles, probably 7 out of 10.
Did you laugh at some of their bickering and some of the comedic elements of this film? Because I can't say I laugh very often, if at all.
Oh, I did. I thought the very quick shot of Black Mask having his Botox done, and he has the sage being waved around in his I don't know, warehouse space above the nightclub. That shot, which was only a few seconds, I thought that was quite funny. In fact, this movie is just littered with so much going on in the background, so many little details and even nods to the comics. It's great to pick up on.
There is a lot of nods to the comics and little details. You were talking off air before. Do you want to touch on about that one? That one was really cool to hear.
Yes, absolutely. We haven't mentioned some of the ensemble as the Birds of Prey yet, particularly Renee Montoya and Rosie Perez. She does a bit. She doesn't have much to work with, but she does a bit. So Rosie Perez is sitting in her office. She's texting Black Canary, letting her know that I think some deal about Cassandra Cain's going to go down. Forgive me, my memory's just totally lost the plot here, as per usual. For once, it's not Dan. And in Renee Montoya's office, there's a TV show playing. In fact, it's Days of Our Lives. And in Days of Our Lives, there's a character in a clown suit, played by Arlene Sorkin. Arlene Sorkin was the original voice of Harley Quinn. And that shot from Days of Our Lives is what inspired Paul Dini who worked with Bruce Timm on Batman the Animated Series, to create Harley Quinn. And here that scene shows up in Harley Quinn's movie. Very fitting, very touching. There's a lot of stuff like that that hits. A lot of references
that's awesome.
to previous movies, one beginning with SS that we won't mention.
That's really awesome to see. More nods like that, more Easter eggs. I'm going to have to look up a video straight after this. Best Easter eggs in Harley Quinn. I think there's a lot more than what...
I think you're going to have to
miss a lot.
Your producer at Dan Allen Gaming to make one of those videos.
Oh, maybe. What did you think of Rosie Perez and that ensemble cast? Because, I did not think any of them added much. Her, Black Canary, the Huntress, all duds. Really, I hate to say it, whether it was the casting, whether it was a screenplay, bit of both maybe, but I just didn't have a connection with any of these characters whatsoever. Harley Quinn, Roman Sionis, Black Mask were stealing the show here, and these guys just left behind. Just got left behind real bad, especially at that end scene where when they came together, mate, there was no payoff at all. And I didn't feel any connection between any of these characters at all. They were it was sort of randomly put them together, and there was no chemistry. I just didn't feel the chemistry. So I don't know what your take is on these sort of characters, but if there's going to be a sequel, which apparently there is, Harley Quinn is in works. Sorry, Margot Robbie is in works on the screenplay.
She is
right
Harley
now.
Quinn. So.
She is. She's in works on the screenplay right now with Lucky Chap. So. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I just didn't think these guys nailed it, really.
In classic We Watch This Movie podcast fashion, I'm going to answer your question about Rosie Perez by not answering it at all.
No, I don't want this bullshit. You're going to tell me, was she good or not?
She was good with what she had to work with. In fact, the biggest sin this movie commits is its second build actor, and that's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She only shows up about in the last third of the film.
No.
On a rewatch, you do notice her in some earlier scenes. In fact, we even see her in that Huntress outfit with the biker jacket and the eyeshadow. And stop putting your thumb down at me while we record this. I'd really appreciate if you could be professional for once. We're never going to be professional. That's what this podcast is about. Mary Elizabeth Winstead should have had more to work with. I believe the fault is the screenplay. It feels rushed at some points. The first half of the film, when it's a ton of Harley's narration and jumping around, that first time at the cinemas just annoyed the crap out of me. I just wanted it told straightforward with some plot line, maybe just one A and one B story to hang on to. Instead,
there's too much narration.
Yeah, and there's too much for a 104 minute picture. It's less than 2 hours. We don't need to shoehorn everyone in. I get it. You need to play catch-ups, and there might not be a heck of a lot for these characters. Huntress could have had her own movie. Just do that instead. The Bertinelli stuff and that goddamn MacGuffin, the stupid diamond that makes no sense. Why would you have codes encrypted on the inside of a diamond? So ridiculous. Come on. There should have been more. I enjoyed the cast. Dan, again, I'm going to disagree with you. I felt the chemistry was there. That
really?
Wow,
okay.
When we get to Amusement Mile and they're at the booby trap, which is literally a booby trap funhouse, I thought that was awesome. We've got Margot Robbie, roller skates, kicking ass. In fact, she wears the roller skates in about 3 different fight scenes, a couple of them chase sequences, harkening back to John Wick 2, which A+ for any nods to that franchise. And everyone just smashed it. Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Margot Robbie both make for super credible super heroines, and not the kind of heroine that Ewan McGregor likes.
I thought the best scenes were when Harley was in her house, or when she was going off on her own, when she was sort of alone or with one other character.
Yes, when
they
it
were the
slows
best
down.
parts.
I had the same as you.
Yeah, they were the best parts, and by the end, when they're all together, it's just mumble jumble. You can treat these characters with respect when they're all on screen. It can be done. Endgame did it well, I thought, in that final end scene, the portal scene. There's so many characters, you can still respect them all. I guess there's not many in there, not as many in this,
No, and we didn't have 22 films. We didn't have 22 films building up to it.
Well, that's the thing. DC need to invest in some more films. They need to build these characters up. You can't just.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
I just don't think they're doing it the right way. I really don't. I just, whether it was a screenplay here, I don't know, but because Guardians of the Galaxy, that's working with a similar cast, and they pulled it off, so it can be done. I just don't know whether they did it here. And Cassandra, the Huntress Helena here was the worst part for me of this film. Very dull performance. I just didn't resonate with me, the performance at all. From what I know of the Huntress in the comics, I just didn't think it stuck very well. And yeah, I was a bit. That's probably the biggest disappointment I had. Her and Black Canary, when she finally screams. This is getting a bit nerdy here in the DC world. When she finally does that canary cry, didn't pay off for me, and she only did it once. This is one of her big pillars of this character. There was supposed to be a payoff here. It didn't come for me, so I am ragging on the film. It did have, I am being a bit harsh here, but as you know, you guys, I'm a Batman fan, Batman fanatic. So
really, we didn't know that.
I want them to treat these characters right, and unfortunately, these side characters, I just didn't think they got them 100% right.
You said Helena Bertinelli is the worst part of the film. I've got to disagree with you there. It's easily going to the screenplay here. Christina Hodson, I believe she's had about 4 different screenplays produced, which is massive for any screenwriter. Getting one script, be it a spec script or a bit of work like an adaptation, greenlit, is a tough job. And she's had 4 of them. In fact, she wrote Bumblebee. What did you think of that?
Oh, God. And you know what else she wrote? Unforgettable. 2 of the worst screenplays in the last 3 years.
Very ironic, given we all forgot about
that. And she's apparently attached to The Flash, man. I'm not happy about it. The Flash needs a good screenplay. I don't know. She just needs to prove herself, because I'm looking at her credits now on IMDb, and it's not looking good. That's all I'll say.
Although her work, which you mentioned were your favourite parts, in those slower moments when we get some characters one-on-one, particularly with Harley Quinn and Cassandra Cain, and Ella J. Basco as Cassandra Cain. She was only 13 when this was in production and released. Wow, what a meaty role for her to sink her teeth into.
That's awesome.
It should have been better. Kathy Yen, who is of Chinese descent, as our director, and Christina Hodson of Taiwanese descent. It's cool to see some female people of color make a movie, and we even get some blaxploitation references with Dinah Lance. That's all fine, but it probably should be a little bit better. Still, I'm more positive than you, mate.
So you did think the chemistry was there, though, because that was one thing I thought was a big no-no in this film.
Yeah, it wasn't overexposed. We had enough of them. In fact, we got Harley Quinn and Renee Montoya kind of battling it out during the police station invasion. They get stopped halfway through, and then we spent another 20 minutes building up shit. God, what a just mess of editing. We did not need to try and replicate Suicide Squad with that. No. And then the 2 of them fight, plus we get Harley snorting the suspicious white-looking powder. That was cool. That was fun. That on the leg breaking in that scene and others, very, very egregious.
What about the music and the soundtrack? I thought the score, the composing of the film was very average, very underwritten. Didn't do much. The actual soundtrack, real life music coming in, worked. Were you the same thoughts as me there?
I hated this many needle drops. We did not need that much commercial music.
Okay, so you thought it was too much.
And in fact, the majority of these covers were just so average, and one after another, particularly in the first act, was well too much. The Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend sequence was a little cringeworthy. It felt like something carried over from the Suicide Squad cutting room floor. Really should have been left there, but it was nice to have Ewan McGregor doing that song again after Moulin Rouge.
Jackson, I want to ask you a question here. Now, you're not big on the superhero genre, are you?
I like superhero films, but I'd rather go out and see some fresh work. Let's just say.
He'd rather watch an A24 film in gold class with his $200 bottle of wine. Is that right, Jackson?
That's right.
I'll join you. I want to say, how many DCEU, the current DCEU universe, butchered it, but you know what I mean. How many of the films have you seen leading up to this?
Here's my answer. How many are there?
You've got...
All right, let's name them. Man of Steel.
Man of Steel at the
Man
helm.
of Steel. Okay. Then we've got Batman versus Superman.
Yep.
Then we've got Justice League, which I haven't seen. Okay. Then we've got Wonder Woman I've seen. We've got Aquaman I've seen. We've got Shazam I haven't seen. And we've got this. So on the whole, I have seen a lot of them. I haven't seen, I guess... Well, see, Justice League is meant to be this linchpin. There's that word, but it's not, because Batman versus Superman was very much meant to be that tentpole movie, and that just turned me off all of them. Oh, we've also forgotten Suicide Squad. How could we? We've only mentioned it umpteen times already in this episode.
Yeah. So, and out of all of them, what was your experience? Not great.
No, not great. Man of Steel is a Zack Snyder film. As is Batman vs. Superman, but Man of Steel is the better of the two. Lots of great ideas and themes he wants to explore, but he just can't put them together coherently. The guy's a fantastic visual storyteller. I very much enjoy his Watchmen film, released in 2008, 2009, and who doesn't like 300? There's no one on the face of the planet that doesn't enjoy 300. But these later pictures, the wheels definitely come off the wagon.
So I don't want to set you up here, but would you say Man of Steel had the best story?
No, absolutely not.
Because Nolan was one of the people behind that. But anyway, go on. Wonder Woman is
you just had to put him in this podcast.
You're going to say
you couldn't go to one episode.
Mate, he is attached to a lot of DC stuff. But anyway, yours was Wonder Woman. Were you going to say is your favorite narrative in the DCEU?
Yeah, out of all these films, I've enjoyed Wonder Woman the most.
I'd say the same.
If you put Wonder Woman up against Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, it's Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman 100% of the time.
Oh yeah, come on! Don't even talk to me about Captain Marvel. Where do you sit? Last one in this sort of DC stuff. Where do you sit? Marvel or DC?
Oh, it's got to be Marvel.
You're a Marvel fan.
Not only have we got much more content to produce, but much more quality content. I'm
talking about IP, not movies, though. I'm talking about IP here. I'm talking about these characters.
Yeah, Marvel. I love the X-Men. Okay. I love the X-Men.
Okay. So, that makes sense.
Look, for the sake of brevity, and we've ragged on enough about just, have you seen this? Have you seen that? I believe I've seen every film with the exception of Thor: The Dark World and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, I just wanted to know about your superhero knowledge of the last 10 years and sort of how many you had seen. Okay. So that's...
Well, Dan, you can bet that any I haven't seen are on my current watch list of 2,368 movies on Letterboxd at Marshall on Film, followed by an underscore.
Oh, no, do not follow this guy. He doesn't put out... He only puts one review out a week now, so we're not going to encourage this sort of behavior.
Someone's going to do note-taking for these episodes.
Once he does 3 reviews a week, everyone start following him again. How does that sound, Jackson?
Dan, that sounds fantastic.
All right, why don't we head into our final ratings?
Final ratings?
Final ratings?
Final ratings.
I'm going to start this with a 6 out of 10.
Wow, that's high praise considering how much you've ragged this movie.
I know.
That gaming reviewer within you, isn't it? Oh, it was shocking, terrible.
It's the gaming reviewer.
Out of 10.
No, look, I did enjoy myself in the end. These are all nitpicky stuff. But as I said, I did enjoy myself in the end of the film. There was some redeeming elements, as I said. Harley Quinn, Black Mask, the action scenes, the colourful palette, the ridiculousness of it all. Some of the banter there. There was a lot to like, so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Definitely not without its flaws, as we've talked about. Jackson, what is your rating?
6 out of 10, man-eating hyenas. You said it well, Dan, so I'm pretty much going to rip the words straight from your mouth. There's much more to like here than there isn't. It's fun. On a rewatch, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure. There's some cool performances. I like the cast overall. The direction is sound. Sure, you're going to hate some of the songs, but if you needed to drag your girlfriend along to a superhero movie on a date to keep her happy, you could do a lot worse than this female picture.
You know what? I give it a 6, but I couldn't recommend it to everyone. I couldn't, because there is a lot of issues that I think some people won't be able to get past. And if you're a big Marvel fan and you've loved what they've done for the last 10 years and you head into this film, you'll be disappointed. You probably won't like it, I don't think. Unless you're looking for something completely different, completely fresh, and you liked Suicide Squad or you didn't mind it, then you will enjoy this. But I can't recommend this to the average goer. It is R-rated, and it is about a comic book hero comic book character that a lot of people, I don't think, even know about. I don't know how recognizable the name of Harley Quinn is, to be honest. To me, Harley Quinn straight away I know, but I'm entrenched in this world, so I don't. You'd have to tell me, Jackson, is Harley Quinn a big name? I don't think she is. So,
clearly not when this didn't break even
correct.
with a $100 million budget and its massive marketing push. Dan, you make a great point. It is a gross, ugly, at times disgusting feature. If you're someone like me and you love getting depraved and just making yourself feel sick when you're watching people's legs get broken, not once but twice in the picture, you are going to enjoy it. The action sequences with Margot Robbie roller skating, chasing after cars, doing flips, kicking people in the face. We get Roman Sionis blowing up in grandiose fashion. It was a lot of fun.
We need the t-shirt with Jackson's quote just then. I love getting depraved.
And on that note, it's been another amazing episode of the We Watch This Movie podcast.
If you guys do like Harley Quinn, though, make sure to check out some of her comic books, Harleen, Gotham City Sirens. There's a lot out there to love. So anyway, it's a 6 out of 10 for both, which equals 12 out of 20.
Which equals a 3 out of 5. And you know what, Dan? That 3 out of 5 score on @Letterboxd, we know you're listening, does bleed into very much the critical reception to this film. So currently, from the movie-going audiences and critics out there, IMDb has this at a 6.2 out of 10 from over 114,000 ratings worldwide. Rotten Tomatoes has this at a 78% of critics giving it a fresh rating, and nearly 400 critics did rate this, both recently and when it came out a few months ago, and it's got an average score of 6.74 out of 10. So on the whole, people think this is good, but not necessarily great. Audiences, 78% have liked that with over 15,000 ratings and a 4 out of 5 on Rotten Tomatoes. So those general moviegoers have enjoyed it. Metacritic, a 60 from 59 reviews, and this is Metacritic's #1 most discussed film of 2020, which goes to show you we just haven't had a lot of features this year. I wonder why. Finally, shout outs to them, the third time in this pod. Letterboxd, 3.4 out of 5, and it's been logged by over 154,000 users.
3.4 on Letterboxd. That is surprising.
It's had quite a high rating on Letterboxd. You made a great point earlier, Dan. The bar was set very low for this film.
I think that's really helped it in the end. But I am surprised Rotten Tomatoes, we touched on off air, 400 reviewers rated this at 78%. And then there's animated films like Superman Red Sun with 15 reviewers. We need to push. You and me need to be on Rotten Tomatoes. We're going to push and we're going to get on.
Maybe if I had more than one review out every fortnight.
We will get on. Whether it's this year or next will be decided by them, but we will be there. We will be on that site one day, won't we,
By
Jackson?
hook or by crook, we'll be on Rotten Tomatoes, and you best believe we'll be sponsored by Letterboxd.
Oh, I don't know about that. They're not answering my calls, Jackson. Anyway, before we get into the Q&A, Jackson, why don't you tell
we have
us
one of those to do.
A little bit about our sponsor for today?
Dan, I'm so glad you asked. Let's get into our sponsor for today, which is ExpressVPN. Listeners, as mentioned in previous episodes, we'd love for you to check out our sponsors, ExpressVPN. You can check out expressvpn.com/WeWatchThis. That's a / We Watch This for 3 months free access. What is ExpressVPN? Well, ExpressVPN allows you to access any content, no matter your location, where you can choose from over 160 countries. ExpressVPN allows you to access any content anywhere on the World Wide Web. You can keep your online activity from being traced, choose from over 160 locations across 94 countries. You get to keep your real location hidden from prying eyes. Whether you want to be hiding the diamond that contains some ridiculous bank vault code to a Bertinelli fortune, Or if you want to be hiding from the Joker, Black Mask, or any other villain from Batman's Rogues Gallery, you best believe you want to be hiding with ExpressVPN. For example, here in Australia, we have a lot of fresh content that drops here before it drops anywhere else. So, if you want to watch some of the latest DCEU content on the DC streaming service, we can't get that in Oz though. You want to be using ExpressVPN. It's super handy, super easy to use. One more time, Dan, third time over, expressvpn.com/we watched this for 3 months free.
You are the best ad reader in Australia. I'm putting
not
it
the
out
world.
there, mate. Not the world. Can't give you that quite yet. But you are, in Australia, the number one, in my opinion. Let's give him a clap.
Thank you. You love me. You really love me.
After
All
all
right,
the
Jackson.
putting down you've done of me in this episode, you might have just won me back over. All right, fine. You twisted my arm. I'll come back for episode 17.
Yes! You mean 16. All right,
Da-da-da-da.
let's get into the Q&A. Here we go. We got some great questions.
Listeners, how
from
many
our
questions?
Lovely listeners. How many questions did we get? I'm reading now and I can see about 30. We'll try and do as many as we can. But why don't we kick it off right away with our first question. Will you guys ever review older classic films, golden era films like Sunset Boulevard and Clockwork Orange?
That one was sent in by Thor's Magic Hammer 96. Thank you so much for sending that one in. Absolutely. We're going to be reviewing some golden era classic films. And I'm not sure what your golden era it is, whether it's the 1950s with Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard or the 1970s with Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. We're going to get into some of those. For the meantime, we want to stick to some contemporary cinema. We want to be doing some fresh takes during a trying time here where people might want to escape to our golden, smooth, silky voices, particularly of you, Dan, as we talk about some new films and what we recommend you see when cinemas open back up here in a couple of weeks.
Beautiful. Worst movies in your opinion? Roy 17685.
Kick us off, mate.
Worst movies. I'd always think about Human Centipede, that series, as the most disgusting, terrible series. I think of Ghostbusters, the recent one, 2016. I think of Movie 43. So there's so many to name, but there's a couple off the top of my list.
All right, you can attach anything that has Aaron Seltzer and Jason Freeberg to that list, the just terrifically shithouse duo who've given us Meet the Spartans, Disaster Movie, and all the other... Oh, Vampires Suck. Can't forget about that one.
Jesus Christ. I haven't even seen a couple of those.
You don't want to.
Heath McLeod, 78. Is Joker overrated? The 2019 film.
We're going to have a few of these questions, aren't we? Pass.
Well, I'm glad you asked. We've got another question here. What is your opinion on Joker 2019? Is
Pass.
Joker the best comic villain of all time?
Pass.
What is your opinion on Joker 2019?
Okay. Here's our collective opinion, and Dan, I'm going to speak for you for once. We're going to cover it in a podcast, people. You heard it here first. The Joker episode is coming soon.
It is coming. Get ready. It's a big one. Walkthrough Gaming TV. What did you think of Avengers Endgame? How do you think it'll go without those certain characters?
What did we think of Avengers Endgame? I guess you could say we probably enjoyed ourselves during that movie. Well, it looks like it's... If Spider-Man Far From Home is anything to consider, and the upcoming footage we've seen from Black Widow, as well as the
Black
fact
Widow.
that it's a Black Widow
Spin-off.
Yeah, that's the sequel to Rear Window by Hitchcock, right? It's the blaxploitation version of that film, actually. If the fact that it's a multi-billion-dollar franchise is anything to go off, I believe this franchise is in very safe hands without Tony Stark.
I think what he's saying is, did we enjoy it? We enjoyed Endgame. We both enjoyed it. And how will it go without those certain characters? Spoilers. Iron Man and Captain America no longer with us. It'll be completely fine, if not better. Endgame or Avatar?
Oh, more Marvel.
I swear we've covered this question, but Endgame or Avatar by Liam Q558?
Are you talking about The Last Airbender, directed by M. Night Shyamalan?
I think it's got to be Endgame, don't you?
Are we talking about James Cameron's 2009?
We're talking about James Cameron's 2009. Of course we are. The Last Airbender could be one of the worst films I'd ever seen.
Yeah, look, it probably ranks right down there beneath the bottom of the barrel where you should never turn. Yeah, it has to be Endgame. That's just a
From a scale of 1 to 10, how much goosebumps did you have from the portal scene in Endgame? Nacho Blanche. I did have goosebumps, I'll be honest. The comic book geek in me loved that scene and the music playing. It's on my Spotify, Portals. Come on, it came together. 22 films, you got to commend them. It was a lot of fun.
It was a bit of a fist pump.
That's the payoff I'm looking for in a film like that.
Give me more Margot Robbie on roller skates, okay?
Do you think superhero movies are ruining or benefiting cinema or neither from sheet_movie reviews? Are they benefiting cinema or not, Jackson?
I believe they're benefiting cinema. Anything that has more people going to the movies, anything that gets us more money to pump into other features, gets these awesome directors more name recognition. Sure, why the hell not? Are they creatively bereft? Yeah, they are a little bit. There's easily a Marvel structure set up. DC obviously have no clue. We've ragged on that enough in this podcast so far. I believe they're benefiting cinema.
They are. They're benefiting cinema. More people are going. The stats provide, back that up. More people are going. Avengers Endgame, the number one grossing film of all time.
Movies are making more money now than they ever had, Dan. I remember on a few podcasts earlier, we looked at the lowest grossing weekend ever, which was back in 1998. And that was obviously surpassed this year due to the COVID pandemic. But in 1998, superhero films were not serious business. A couple years later, Spider-Man comes out, X-Men comes out, and just blows all of that up. And since then, it really has just been a Rolling Stone gathering more and more moss. So
and we saw Batman, we saw
gotta
Iron
be a
Man,
positive.
And then just from then, as you said, the creative juices on half of these superhero films aren't there, which is a shame. But it's like any genre, so I think it's here to stay for a long, long time, and it helps, not hinders, in my opinion. Obviously, there's another side to the coin where are people just seeing superhero and nothing else? We hope not, but. Rochelle at the movies. What movie
Rochelle!
Makes you feel,
shout out! Check out her content. Rochelle rates it.
What movie makes you feel the most nostalgic?
Take it away, Dan.
Most nostalgic? I would think. Are we talking nostalgic? Bringing back childhood memories, sort of thing here.
Whatever you want. It's your question, your show. You're the host.
I think the original Toy Story has a nice place in my heart. Something like that really brings back childhood memories, or even something like Bug's Life, or any of those Disney films from back then are awesome, and the nostalgia's always there for them.
100%. And something else that makes you really feel like a kid, even now? Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Totally carefree film. Just thinking back to high school and having a sick day and not giving a complete damn. Plus, Cameron deals with some awesome teen angsty issues. Any of those John Hughes movies from the 80s are so great and hold up now. They might have been just before our generation, Dan, but they're worthwhile going back and watching. So that's going to be our most nostalgic movies.
What made you fall in love with film? What movie was it?
Okay, I'm going to go first
Rochelle.
here.
Also from Rochelle.
Oh, another great question. Thank you so much. Has to be a Tarantino picture. You could almost throw a dart at a board here. Let's go with Pulp Fiction.
Just for today, it'll change next time. Someone else. What made me fall in love with cinema? I couldn't put it down to one film. That'd be so difficult. But I can give you one name. One director's
You don't need
name.
to. Move on. Next question.
It wasn't what you thought.
I don't need to know.
I was going to say James Cameron. Anyway, thoughts on Star Wars from Malachi Key.
Let the past die. Let the past die. Probably the most famous line from the whole of The Last Jedi. Let the past die. Let this franchise die.
Are we going to review those films ever, do you think? I think it's all been
Mate, with
said.
an episode coming out every week, we'll get there someday.
I think it's all been said, though, so I'm not sure we'll come back to them anytime soon anyway. Rank the Star Wars movie sagas. So let's go original, 2003 or whatever that one was. Prequels, and the recent. I think we have the same order.
Okay, Dan, we've got what? We've easily got the originals, the sequels, the prequels.
Correct.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. And if you want to put Rogue One or Solo wherever you want, then that's your prerogative. That's totally up to you.
Solo was... it wasn't a fan.
Future
Rogue
episode
One,
right there.
I think Rogue One is one of the better ones for sure.
Whatever, mate.
Rank this. What movie gets a 0 or a 1 on your rating scale? Tom Dog 09. I think we touched on that before. Have you watched The Eddie, and should it be a Damien Chazelle series? No Time for Movies. Have you watched The Eddie?
I have not. Have you?
No, I haven't, so we really can't touch on that much.
Quick shout out though, Damien Chazelle, Whiplash and La La Land. Big thumbs up from us.
He is a very good director. I can't wait to see what he does next. I know The Eddie is on Netflix currently. So, look, I haven't seen it. I haven't watched many of the recent Netflix TV series, to be honest. So, I'm
No
not very
Time for
well
Movies.
versed.
You can consider my watch list has just increased.
Lewis Afton, worst Nolan film. I'm sorry, but I can't answer this one because there is no worst. That's not a word that you can describe around this man. If I had to pick one, his worst film would be Following, I think. But that's just my opinion.
Our next question. When and why do you guys first start your podcast? When and why do you guys first start your podcast? From Cinephiliacs. Interesting name. We like it. I love being depraved. Okay. When did we start this? Well, we started planning this one out. At least I was involved in the planning process way back when, in January and February. I'd just moved back down to Melbourne from Brisbane, so one side of Australia to the other, and linked back up with Dan, and we thought, let's go right into it. Dan, take us a bit through your background, because you've got more to say than I do.
Oh, look, we both love... It pretty much comes down to we both love films. We want to talk about it for hours on end, and this was the best forum to do it. And if you guys want to also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, because we are going to be doing some trailer reactions as well, which are going to be a lot of fun. So if you want to see more content, YouTube. But yeah, look, I come from a content creation background, so this is all easy for me, and I love it. So
I come from a shit-talking background, so this is super easy for me.
Jackson's a shit-talking background, so he can breeze in and talk about a movie for 5 hours if he wants, without me strangling him. Cinephile reviewer, who has been the most inspirational film character to you? That's a good question. Inspirational film character.
Oh, easily. Hannibal Lecter.
And that's it for today's episode. Yours is Hannibal, is it? Well, my favourite might be... What about the shark in Jaws?
Bruce.
What about Thanos on the Marvel train? That's a real tough one. Most inspirational character. What about Cooper from Interstellar? Oh God, you're gonna kill me! You're gonna kill me, man. I'm so sorry.
My inspirational character is about to be Patrick Bateman once I'm done with you, mate. Have you ever done classic movies or martial arts films like The Last Dragon or even The Five Deadly Venoms? This one was sent in from Christopher Cavan, aka Fatman with a PH, 1978 on Instagram. Have we ever done classic movies or martial arts films? Well, not really on this podcast yet, no. However, I want to give a quick shout out to some awesome martial arts films starring Jackie Chan, Police Story, Armor of God. Those series are amazing. Dan, what have you seen?
I always say The Seven Samurai.
Very classic.
So if you want to watch a classic, that's what I would say. Something new in that genre. Is it the Ip Man or IP Man?
Oh, either or.
Yeah. That series I really enjoy as well. So one of those two, if I had to guess. But are we going to cover them? Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we'll cover a lot of the classics down the line at some point. We're going to cover every genre, whether it's a rom-com or a samurai martial arts film. Media is arguably the most universal mode of communication to date in terms of movies. What is the likelihood of a modern filmmaker's ability to thoroughly navigate a story's concepts and messages to a willing audience? Please provide examples of who is successful in this task and why. Feather, Heather, and Pleather. Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel, for sending in such an interesting question and for
Very
demanding we fill out an essay on it. So thanks for asking. Please provide examples of who is successful in this task and why. I think Dan's just had some just awful flashbacks to university with that one. So if this is judging a modern day filmmaker's ability to go through concepts and messages, well, if people are willing to invest their time right now into sitting down and watching a 90-minute or even a 3-hour epic, considering how fast we're moving, how pathetic our attention spans are thanks to things like Netflix and YouTube, then I'd say that filmmakers do have the ability to do that. Let's look at a modern example, and Dan, you're going to love this one. Denis Villeneuve. We recently covered Prisoners, and that episode will be coming to you all very, very soon. On Prisoners, we have a lot of themes being thrown up about obsession and power and dominance and what trauma can do to people. And that's a slog at 2.5 hours. But it's a rockin' movie. It's highly entertaining, great performances. The messages speak to you. You get the subtext of that film. In fact, we even discussed the subtext of frickin' Birds of Prey being a breakup movie. Like, that's a movie about a girl having a night out on the town, causing havoc by literally fighting goons, getting drunk. It's got everything you want in a girly breakup. So I think that modern filmmakers still do have that ability. What's your opinion?
I think, to be honest, general moviegoers have got a little bit less interested in themes, concepts. Maybe it is a part of this Marvel Universe triumph that's happened, but they're just not really, they don't really care about these concepts. Some of these moviegoers that I've seen, they just want a good movie with a story that they can follow. They don't want to have to think about it. So I think it has, I actually disagree. I think it has gotten harder. They are able to convey it to a certain audience. It's just that some of the audiences coming in now don't want to take that stuff in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We're also, we don't mean to be too negative here about the Marvel films like we are about the DC stuff, because the Marvel films do have quite a lot going on thematically. However, as Dan said, you can switch your brain off, go in there, not give a damn about it for 2 hours and be entertained.
Yeah, no, we both like the Marvel films. We're not knocking on them. It's just some of the elements there. What's your favorite movie? Knack for movies.
Oh, we haven't had this one before.
I think we get this question every time. Guys, it's The Dark Knight from Christopher Nolan. Jackson's is Before Sunset.
Oh, yeah, you know what? Let's go Before Sunset today.
Yeah. Good movie. Entertainment, Mrs. Atar. Do you watch Bollywood movies?
Oh, Hindi language films? Not typically, but we'll be sure to cover something on this podcast sometime.
You reckon? Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched one before, so it'll be a new experience. But we I guess we should. We should cover one eventually. We will.
When we get around to doing these live streams, maybe a live watch-along would be interesting for our fans.
Oh, wow.
All 10 of you.
Oh, sorry, 11. Not 10. Hey, Mum. No, well, on that, by the way, we just got into the top 2,000 in the world in the film and TV category in podcasts. So that's a big step in the right direction.
Not to mention top 3 in Australia.
Apparently there's 2001 podcasts, so we beat one of them. No, there's thousands. So no, we're doing well. We're getting up there. Top 3 in Australia.
Thank you to everyone who has supported us, rated us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher, and hit that follow and subscribe button across all platforms. We really appreciate it. And this in-depth, detailed Q&A where we cover every single question, it is all for you.
And if you guys want to know, just a quick deep dive into the stats of this, our best podcasts so far have been Midsummer, Parasite, and Extraction. And our worst performing one was Bloodshot. So there's a little
don't
quick
mention
insight there. So please listen to our Bloodshot review.
All right, our next question. What is your favorite sci-fi of the last decade from 2010 to 2019? Sent in by Fucks Cookie. F-U-X-X Cookie, for those.
It's a tough one for me because I love Blade Runner 2049. I love Interstellar. They're the two of the favorites, probably, from the last decade. I probably couldn't pick between the two. Really, both. I'd probably just go with my boy Nolan. I know I rag on about him every episode, and I will to the day I die. Interstellar, loved it, so probably that. I do. You know what I am, though? This isn't. He says here in the last decade. I'm going back. I'm going back and watching 2001: Space Odyssey. I'm really going back to all these classics.
When are you watching that?
I'm going to watch them in the next month or so. I'm going to go back.
I'm right there with you, mate. You and I are teaming up to watch
please
it.
join me. I'm even going to go back watch all the Terminators, all the Alien series. So I can't wait. It's going to be
I'm on board.
Going to be a ride. What's yours?
Okay, I'm going to do my favorite thing on this podcast, and that's Ride A24's D. My favorite sci-fi of the last decade. You could throw either of these in there. Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson, or Ex Machina with Alicia Vikander.
Oh, I didn't think of that. I think you've mentioned that before. Ex Machina. What a great film that was.
It was probably the best of the decade. Okay, our next question sent in by Dave Who. Dave Who asks, our thoughts on There Will Be Blood.
Fantastic. Slow, but fantastic.
I'm right there with you, mate. Let's move on to the next one. It's going to be future episodes. Don't you worry, Dave Who. Dan, can you answer this one for us? Why was the shark in Jaws named Bruce? And this one is asked by Jack Kratz Talks Movies.
I have got no idea. The last time I saw Jaws, I was like 15. So why is his name Bruce? Probably naming him after Bruce.
It's got to be named after Bruce Campbell, of course, from the Evil
Bruce
Dead
Campbell.
movie.
Bruce Campbell.
That's right. Even though Jaws came out about 10 years earlier, but that's the narrative we're going to play.
Yeah. I got a question here, Jackson, from a guy called Dan Allen Movies.
Oh, who's that?
I don't know, but he sounds good looking. Anyway, he says, why does Jackson think Tenet won't make $700 million? I tend to agree with this guy. Why don't you think it will?
To hear why don't you check out our episode already released, episode 14 on bad education.
Oh, no. Why?
Okay.
A movie next movie you will watch from Stephanie 035.
As well as a movie that you hate. Okay,
So-
a movie I hate.
Tell me another movie you hate.
We had it in the schedule. We might still record it someday. It's got to be Jack and Jill. We don't need to go into why.
I can't wait.
Just the premise with Adam Sandler playing dual roles just about sums it up. The next movie I will watch. Now, this is an interesting question. I typically sit down to stuff and then find myself screwing around between the movie library, the Netflix library, the Stan library, and every other streaming service I pay for. By the time I get to picking a movie, it's got to be under 90 minutes because I've run out. What I do want to watch, I want to watch The Elephant Man, directed by none other than David Lynch. What about you, Dan? What do you want to watch next?
That's on my watch list. I'm going to watch Defending Jacob on Apple. That's my next TV series. Besides those other films, Alien, Terminator, going back there, I'm going to be watching Defending Jacob. That's probably the next big TV series. And in terms of other movies that I've got so many on my watch list. I'm heading towards 500. I really want to watch Mad Max Fury Road. Now that
500? Talk to me, buddy, when you get to 2,369.
Yeah,
okay?
I know, right? Mine's a bit more accessible, Jackson. Actually, half of my watch list I've already seen. I just want to review them again. It's just there as a reminder. I want to watch Mad Max again, Fury Road. I need to sit there on my beautiful 4K screen and just sit back and can't wait.
Dan, you and I, we should be doing a live watch along in this. How about a Mad Max marathon? Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome, followed up by Fury Road.
I watched the original Mad Max, and I found it a struggle to get through. I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago. But maybe I need to shoot myself in the foot because it's a classic. But anyway,
That's right, mate. Put your foot right in your mouth. Our next question comes in from That's Just Jerome. Shout out, buddy. Thank you, Jerome, for sending in this question. Top 5 moments in film. I'm going to kick us off. Any 5 gunshots from John Wick?
top 5 moments in film. Cooper, we're docking. That's number 1. Anyway, you get the reference, you'll know. Danny B. Good. Danny B. Good, what are your favourite genres of film? I think we've said this before. We love thrillers, we love mystery, and we love
Sci-fi.
We love sci-fi. And you put all 3 together, you've got us. How much did Blair Witch cost to make? I heard $8,000. Randall Garrett.
Randall, we haven't heard anything else, so I guess you're right.
Blair Witch, the original, I believe, yeah. I think it was literally a guy with his handheld. I think there wasn't much else to it. It was really low budget. I don't know about
It's got to be the
$8,000.
most profitable movie of all time.
Oh, it'd be up there for sure.
If not that, then Paranormal Activity, which really just ripped off the concept, 15 years later?
Or maybe we should do a marathon of that. Oh, jeez. Thoughts on Starship Troopers, Logan Rolfe?
Shout outs to Logan. Buddy, you best believe we're going to be reviewing Starship Troopers along with Paul Verhoeven's entire filmography, including RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, and Hollow Man.
Did you watch Ellie from him?
What?
Ellie, 2016. She was nominated for an Oscar. Did you ever watch that?
No, I did not.
Ooh, maybe we throw that one in as well. Don't kill me, but I actually haven't seen Starship Troopers, so
You should be shot.
I know. I really should. I've seen all of his other films, Total Recall, RoboCop, absolute classics, Basic Instinct, classic. But Starship Troopers, never seen it. So that's one on the watch list. Guys, thanks for tuning in for today's episode. It's been an absolute blast. How long have we gone for, Jackson? Nearly an hour and a half. It's been a lot of fun.
Mate. We're well over.
Well over. I mean, people will say we go on too long after an hour. It's an hour and a half now. Anyway, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you guys today. And, of course, you, Jackson. Where can they find us, Jackson?
We can find all of Dan's fantastic work at Dan Allen Movies on Instagram, on Facebook, on Letterboxd, on Twitter, and you can find at Dan Allen Gaming from our great producer and editor. You want to check out his stuff on YouTube, you can find my work at Marshall on Film on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Twitter. And of course, please follow us on social media at We Watch This Podcast, especially on Letterboxd and Instagram. Geez, we love those 2 platforms. We'd love for you to subscribe, rate us 5 stars, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher, wherever you are listening right now. And that just about does it. 15 episodes in, baby!
Woo! Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you all, and thank you for listening.